Thank you for all your concern, your well wishes. I want to say this from the bottom of my heart. I am fine. I am fine. I am divine. I am fine. Say that to yourself. I am fine. I am divine. This is all we need to know today. So if I pass out, there's your takeaway. I am fine. I'm divine. What else do we need to know? You know, you're an eternal being. What can really go wrong, right? Yeah. Lots of things go wrong at this level, yes? Don't we know? It's just one joke after another, isn't it? Just one pratfall after another in our lives. And, you know, stuff happens. It just happens. And there's another way of saying that. But it does. It's just one of those relative truths. But there's something absolutely true that's under that the substare, that stands under the substance of life. That is the unshakable ground of our being. And that's why we come to places like this. That's why we need these teachings, because life does happen, and we do get upended by life and circumstances, and they love us one moment, and they're doing what we want them to do, and then the next moment they're not, and, you know, our expectations get dashed by, you know, the vagaries of life and the vagaries of personalities and the way life just has its twists and turns. And sometimes the winds of fortune are you know, filling our treasure chests. And then there's the winds of misfortune, where it feels like, you know, the rug's been pulled out from under us, yes? And all of this is happening at this plane of existence called a human life. And Jesus knew about this, and going back before that, every master teacher said, it's gonna get rough. You know, the seas are going to churn. And there's going to be waves of change that are going to mess up your life. But know something deeper. Know something more present, more primary, something that just stands under all of these human experiences, because that is where peace of mind is found. It's not going to be found in circumstances. Oh yeah, we're going to have peaceful moments. But we know how those come, and they're temporal. They exist in time and space, yeah? And because they exist in time and space, they cannot last. You know, we want to freeze we want to freeze frame those moments when she loves me just perfectly, right? Or he's doing it just the way you want him to, saying just those words. We want to freeze frame those moments. And there's a big part of us, that surface mind of us, that human side of us, that wants to just get the circumstances all just lined up, you know? Get that landscape of our lives just perfected. And then we just want to, you know, we want to freeze it, you know, and just make it that way, yeah? But that's just not the nature of life. The nature of life is what? Is change and change. Change upon change upon change. And if we can embrace change, we will be much happier in this life. Because the only thing that is going to disturb us at a deep level is if we think that life is under our control, and that our job in life is to make things just the way we want them so that we don't have to be upset. If that is the way that if that is what we think is our path, if we think that that's our journey, if we think that that's our purpose in life, my gosh, we're so underneath the capacity that we have to live so much more deeply and so much more peacefully and so much more joyfully. So I wanted to chat with you today about that very subject. That is your path worthy of you? In other words, are you living a life that is high enough for your true nature? Or are you only living a life that is satisfactory to that part of you that needs life to be a certain way for you to be okay? And, you know, I think back in my life, and I've lived a few years now, so I really have this perspective of how, as I've gone along in life, I've had all these mountaintop goals that I've had for my life. You know, like when I was a teenager, it was just to get a car. Do you remember when you just wanted a car more than anything else? That was my mountaintop. I mean, that looked like a long ways away from trying to convince my parents that I should have a car and then to have the money to buy the car and go through all those things. But that was it. That was going to be the mountaintop. I knew that if I got my own car, when I would be able to have all this freedom, I would be able to go where I wanted to go. I could go when I wanted to go. I could go as fast as I wanted to go. I could have whoever I wanted in the car. You know what I'm saying? It was going to be my path to freedom. And that was my mountaintop. And it was huge. And then I got it. I got it. And then I wanted someone in the seat next to me, you know what I mean? And it was about girls, and I had to have the perfect girl, and if I could get that girl, oh my gosh, that was my mountaintop. And all along the way, we just create these temporary goals and journeys. It's a path that is sort of it's comprised of preferences that satisfy us at one level of our being. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that we find that those mountaintops just put us in a new perspective from which we now notice that there is a mountaintop that's some distance from us that now looks even more attractive. Have we noticed that one? Yes. So there's nothing wrong with going up the mountain in pursuit of our goals as long as we recognize that those kind of worldly material goals are not going to give us the ultimate satisfaction, no matter how great we think that thing, that person, that situation, that accomplishment. And you can just take this whole journey right up to, your senior years and think, when I can finally retire, when I don't have to go to that silly old job anymore, I'm gonna have to deal with that boss and those ignorant colleagues that I have to deal with every day, or when I can finally just not have to work and for somebody else, and I can just relax, and then I'm going to be so happy. Have anyone noticed that mountaintop has a perspective of something yet to be accomplished? There is always going to be that. That is the nature of life. And that's why Jesus and all the master teachers said, do not judge by appearances. Do not judge by appearances. The good ones, the bad ones, any of them, because they're all appearances. Appearances are anything that just comes and goes in this temporal world of time and space. Anything that's here today and gone tomorrow. Anything that can wear out. All those things that we want, those acquisitions, those material things, they all wear out. Have you noticed? You get the car, and then after a couple of years, it's got dings in it, and you notice there's maybe a leak or something. There's a noise coming, and that car that was going to be it for you. And now it's not it anymore. And now we have to look in the catalog of possibilities, some greater outcome, some greater babble or bauble or treasure of some kind. Life is always calling us to something deeper. And we're heaven made, see? This is the reason that it never satisfies us. It's not that we're ungrateful or that we're sort of superficial, although that's probably true at some level. But the reason that ultimate satisfaction cannot be reached in those ways is because of what we really are. We're heaven made. We're spiritual beings. And anything other than coming home to the recognition of what we are, of our true nature, anything short of that is going to leave us wanting. It is the very nature of how we awaken, because there is this scratch that we cannot itch humanly. Yes? There is something, this divine discontent, this nagging sense of incompletion that we translate as something that the world can give us is actually just a spiritual call home. It's a spiritual call to know the divine within ourselves. And Jesus tried to explain this to the disciples, and they went, oh yeah, that's great and everything. So tell us again, when is the kingdom going to come? When and where and how will we know it and where will it be? And are you going to be the king of the kingdom? And he said, no, I say it to you, and I say it again, and I say unto you, and I say unto you, and I say unto me, that it will not come with expectation. It will not come as we say, look here, oh, look there. The surface mind will beguile you. It will trick you like the serpent in the story, And the serpent in the story was a co-conspirator in this falling asleep to being already in the garden. Yeah. That we already had what we needed. We've already been created in the image and likeness of God. We already have this abundance, and that's what the Garden of Eden story represents. We had it all. We have it all. You know, all of our needs are abundantly met spiritually. And then we said, but what if I sort of went off on my own? What if I just, what if I bit of this idea of something better out there? And I bite into that apple, and my eyes are closed to the recognition of the garden that I'm already in. Do we know this? That we've all bitten that apple. We've all bitten into that false promise that the world offers us, and it's robbed us of the very beauty and the preciousness and the love and the peace and the joy that is right here and right now, that's seated in your very being, in my being. Help is on the way. Healing has already begun. Yeah. You are divine. You are fine. You are divine. You know this. So there's this sort of tension that lives in us around, we live in this industrialized part of the world which is really emphasizes and glorifies accomplishment and acquisition and, and going for it. And we struggle perhaps when we feel that we're in the tension of that. We're drawn into that. We see that as being a high value target for our lives, yeah? And yet there's something that just continues to say, yeah, but is that really going to do it? Is that really doing it for me? And will it lead to a greater sense of equanimity, of peace of mind, of true feeling of abundance? Is something other than this moment really the focus for my attention? Is something other than this place, right where I am right now, my arm in a cast, that's going to be somewhat better, in some way better spiritually? Does it have any more potential for my happiness than this moment right now? That is such a legitimate question. I just really invite you to take that to heart, because I know, and I know that I know from my own experience, that what lives in us is that constant sense of then and there and when. And it is the biting of the apple that closes our eyes to the Garden of Eden in which we live and move and have our very being. And we have to be vigilant to it, because it's wily, it's guiley, it will seduce us, it will convince us. And we have to be vigilant and say, yes, but I will take time every day to become familiar with the kingdom of God that is already at hand. That's the invitation. That's the path to mastery. That's the path that's worthy of your life. The path worthy of your life is something that doesn't have you stopping short of the possibilities of well-being and fulfillment. I know this for myself. As I get older and as I see things that come and go and rise and fall, I recognize that in the passing show of life, there is no fulfillment. There's just moments of pleasure, which are fine. But would you mortgage, would you defer fulfillment for moments of pleasure? That's the question. I think when we recognize that, when we see what's going on in the world, when we see what's going on in lives of people all around us, that people are challenged left and right, that what they need is not some sort of a magic pill to suddenly get their life to show up in a particular way, but they need awareness of the life that's already present to them. Yes, of the grace of God that's only felt and realized when we're here with it, not when we're in pursuit of another day, another time, another place, another person, another thing. It's just not possible. So what I'm talking about is, instead of forget the bucket list for the purposes of this talk. I know everyone is all excited about bucket lists. I saw an article that said 1,000 places you have to go before you die. Really? 1,000 places? 1,000 places you have to go before you die. Really? Boy, if that doesn't make me feel inadequate. I live in Santa Barbara. I mean, I'm listening to 2 or 3 places I need to go. But that is just this whole thing about, oh my God, you're missing. Oh my God, you are missing so much. You just need to get out there, get your travel agent, and start living your life. You know? Do you hear this? It's the catalog of when and then and there. And it's such a ripoff of us, of what's possible now. So here, what I'm talking about is about extracting the marrow out of your own life as it is now. Extracting all of the grace and the joy and the peace and the love out of here and now. Because it can't get any better than this. Because if it's not this, then you are in some other time zone in which God does not exist. Do you understand how important it is to be here? Because there is no divine in the future. There is no divine place. There is no heaven apart from your beingness. That's how critical is this recognition. Donna Markova, on the very night that her father died, wrote a poem that was motivated, inspired by seeing her father pass away with a shrug. His heart was hollow, convinced that he didn't matter. And she wrote this: I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my own significance, to live so that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. Donna Markova is like many of us. She had an awakening. She realized that she was not living her life fully. She realized that she was forestalling the fullness of life for reasons that were not even clear to her and are not even clear to us. We just have this sense that it's somewhere other than here. It's somewhere other than this situation that is going to be the precious place in which we've opened up like a flower in the sunlight. As if someday it's going to be just warm enough and the soil conditions of our living are going to be just perfected in some way, that we are just going to finally do what every living thing already does, and that's to follow the DNA of its own impulse to be all that it can be, to grow into all that it has been divinely designed to be. You and I are a living thing, and some of us are living lives that are, what Thoreau said, lives that are desperately unfulfilling because we're somehow holding back. And what are we waiting for, you know? Just what are you waiting for? What am I waiting for? Am I waiting for my arm to get better and then I'm going to have a better day? This second injury to my arm has been just like a lifesaver for me because I've been so grateful. And why am I grateful when I have another arm in a cast, you say? I don't know. I just know that I am. I just know that I'm grateful for this arm, which is my minor arm, my not so dominant arm, my clumsy arm. But I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful that I have 2 legs. And I'm grateful that I have 2 eyes, you know? And I'm grateful that I can still taste and see and smell. And it just feels like even more important that I just be present to the life that I have and inhale deeply of the air that is now here for me, you know? and to not find myself with my nose, stuck over a rose and forgetting to even smell it. I mean, there's so much that's already here for us. Life is already so abundant in so many ways. And there's a part of us that has the capacity to appreciate life as it is. Because what it does is it focuses on what you have. It does not focus on what you do not have. And do you know that the best definition of abundance I ever heard is based upon knowing what you have? If you want to feel abundant, just make an inventory of everything that you already have. And if you want to feel impoverished, make the other list of everything that's missing, broken, or not working in your life, and you will feel poor. But the choice is ours. We get to decide what we're looking at. We get to decide what we're quantifying. We're getting to decide whether we're harvesting the blessings of the present moment in the opulence in which they appear when we are recognizing them, or we get to become the great pathologist that finds out everything that's broken or working against us or withholding from us or something that's diminishing us. This whole Q process that we have been going through and that Denise had another 12 people go through yesterday was, it's hard opening experience, because what it does is it removes the blocks from the awareness of your wholeness and your essential self-worth. It's already here. When master teachers say over and over again that the kingdom of God is within you, you got to take it seriously. Unless you're a master teacher, you best not be questioning that truth. And you best get about the business of discovering how that is true. And if it doesn't seem to be true, then what's in the way? That's really the work here. It's not for us to become any more deserving of God's grace or somehow feeling like we need to stand in the light just right. It's for us to get what's in the way of our recognition of that light and that love and that grace and that glory, to move that aside, to let it go back and dissolve into the nothingness from which it came, because it was all made up. It was a story that you and I made up, and it became a reality that became an identity. And then you became who you were not. And then all we can do all day long is going, I'm looking for my missing piece. I'm looking for my missing piece. Has anyone seen it? It's someone. It's something. Please. Someone, please. I've got all these holes. Someone, please. And the divine God of your being sees you as being completely whole and says, wake up. Wake up. Wake up to this beauty that you are. Wake up to this love that's here. Wake up to the flowers that are outside your door, and wake up to the bird sounds in the morning and everything that is there for you. It's all there for you. You've got a whole beach here. It's your beach. Have you noticed? It's your beach. You don't have to pay anything. You just go down there. You can stand in the waves. You can walk on the sand. It's all been given to us. It's such a gift. And even when our life, is difficult and challenging, maybe even more so than because what happens is there's less capability, then we find ourselves getting more subtle in our recognition, yeah? Whereas when everything is working well, then we just can't get enough. And we're like, well, yeah, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go there, and I'm going to do that. And it just seems like we spend more, and we go more, and we do more, and we feel less. And when people's lives are challenged, oftentimes, it brings them into a finer appreciation of what's here and what's now. You're forced to do this spiritual work of saying, what do I have? What do I have? And when you begin to do that, there's this growing sense of appreciation, this growing sense of what's already present, and this growing sense of abundance and love and peace and appreciation and gratitude, yeah? There's a saying from Brother David Stendhal Rast, who says this. He says, the smaller you make the container of your need, the sooner comes the overflow that becomes your delight. The smaller you make the container of your need, the sooner comes this overflow that becomes your delight. So this is the journey. Oh, this is so anti-Western thinking. Oh my gosh. Let's build a bigger building, a taller skyscraper. Let's have bigger jets and, bigger everythings. Maybe not necessarily in Santa Barbara. We've got building restrictions here, but but in general, the world will cry out for bigger and better and more grandiose. And the spiritual whispers softly, contain your expectations and see how great you already are and how life already is blessing you. I think that's the hero's journey, the true one. The true hero's journey is really to risk this going into this part of us that thinks it needs more, to really explore that. To really explore that. That's a shadow belief, I'm not enough. There's not enough. I'm inadequate. That's a shadow belief. And if we have the courage to explore that, we will find that it was made up. And when we know that it's made up, we know that it does not exist except as a thought that we came to believe, then we become candidates for this greater knowing. Then we can really embrace this greater unfolding that's taking place in our life. The greater unfolding meaning that you and I are part of something vast and magnificent and abundant. And the only thing standing in the way of you and I knowing that is our willingness to look at what's blocking that knowing, to see through it, to not judge by those appearances, and then not to claim one more thing, not one more little thing, not one more even of a nuance of a thing that we need in order for us to live in this kingdom of God that Jesus talked about. You heard me say a couple of months ago, a setback is just a setup for a comeback. And what are we coming back to? I think coming back to ourselves. That a setback can set us up for that recognition, for turning around, bringing our awareness back to this precious being that you and I are. That's what life can do. That's how life can always be for us. When we perceive it through the lens that God is always bringing us home and that every circumstance in life can be absolutely perfect as a catalyst to our own awakening, can be grist for the mill of our own realization. That is what we can do with life as it is appearing, not as we would want it to be. Life can be seen as either one insult after another or one jolt of awakening after another. And how we see that determines how we evolve. And how we see that determines what we experience and whether we feel more connected to the truth of our being or we feel like we're in a far country still waiting for something to fill us, like the prodigal son. But every story of awakening results in the hero or the heroine turning around and coming back home after realizing the powers that they had within them. That's my prayer for you. That's my prayer for me as we move forward through this life that is unimaginable in what can go wrong and how it all can serve us in our awakening to our true nature and to the beauty of God's kingdom, which is here and now in its fullness. Amen? Amen. Amen. And so it is.